how did you like get involved with this job though that you got? Like, how did it come around, or were you already into the 3D modeling phase, and then you were like, look, how did that all gonna play out?
It's like a really long story, but when I was in high school, I was involved in this program with Trio, and they do like Upward Bound. So during the summer, you go and take classes and stuff, so you can get ahead, or you can make up classes. I was using it to basically get ahead. So by the end of my senior year, I had like half of the credits for freshman year of college. So during that senior year, they'll give you an opportunity to choose an internship around ISU, and I really liked history at the time, so I was like, the museum probably sounds like a good spot. So then I asked them, and they were like, sure, yeah, we love free labor.
That's
So
awesome.
then they hired me there, and I worked in the gallery, I worked in the collections, I worked in education. They like passed me around the whole summer. So then when I graduated high school, I hit them up again, and I was like, hey, do you guys remember me? And they were like, yeah, you did a great job. So then I worked in education with them for my first years of college, and then I ended up having some differences, but then they still wanted to keep me, so they asked me to end up going to the IVL, which was just like an absolute fluke. I just
Right.
happened to end up there, and like all throughout like the first 2 years of college, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Right.
And like I knew that I liked art, but I always was told like you can't make money with art.
Yeah.
It's just a dumb dream to ever
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
So then I ended up working there and really loving it, and I'm intuitive with computers, so I ended up working with 3D modeling software and ended up like really loving it. So we use ZBrush and Polyworks, oh my gosh, Geomagic, all kinds of stuff, but mainly ZBrush. So that's what I ended up doing a lot of my projects on. And the first thing that they gave me was like, hey, we have this dinosaur from Wyoming that we need scanned, and then they want made 3D printed and on exhibit
Whoa.
for them. And I was like, I've never used this software in my life.
That's
They were like,
crazy.
well, you can do it. So
How do you scan something like that?
so we have these 3D arm scanners. If anyone is listening and happens to know, they're Faro arm scanners. Basically, you can hold them and like scan over your object, and it takes a laser scan of your object, and like we'll make a point cloud that will then be in your computer, so then you can mess around with that and have your model and manipulate that. So they gave us this fossil, and they were like, well, we need this scanned, and it's too big to CT scan this, so CT scan will actually get the inside of the fossil.
Oh, gotcha.
So we did the surface scan on it, and then I masked out all of the parts that were actually bone, and then made a separate model based off of other troodonts that are related to this dinosaur. And then we put it all together and made that model. I actually have one in my little
Let's
bucket
pull
over
it
here.
out. What you got? From her secret box, what you got?
So this is Lori from Wyoming. You can see.
So you 3D printed this?
Yeah, 3D print, and like that's it's a mix of the actual fossil in there and then my model.
Wow, that's incredible. How long does it take to 3D print something like this?
So I think that was like 10 hours to print it.
10 hours
Oh,
for
yeah.
this?
Yeah, and that's really not that much.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that was made with a resin printer, and I was kind of telling you about that the other day, but the way that this works is there's a vat of resin, and then in there, underneath it is a laser that will cure on this pad that you have on top that will pull out of the vat of resin.
Right.
It's like really complicated to try to explain it, but pictures will make it easier, so I can show that to you. But
Sweet.
you can see on there where the actual fossils molded into it, because it's like the rougher areas versus the smooth stuff.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, so we were working with the researchers on that one, and I emailed them, and I was like, so do you know how many teeth this thing has? And they were like, well, we have guesses. And I was like, oh, well, how many do you think there are? And they were like, just make it fully toothed.
Fully toothed.
So it's like,
That's nice. That's nice. So when you get like because you got a fossil for this, right? Mm-hmm. So when you get a fossil, obviously things like it probably takes research to find out like all that crap, like with the.
yeah, I can show you what that actually looked like. And then the funny story with that, it was found in I think 2001. And
That exact fossil.
and they were actually digging up a Supersaurus, so one of the biggest dinosaurs, and someone had a shovel and was digging and chucked a whole chunk of rock, and then they were like, ah, shit, that was fossil. And so they ended up breaking part of the skull block, but this is the actual CT scan of the skull.
Wow. That's crazy. So yeah, I was about to say, they don't come in all pretty like that.
No.
So you have to...
Yeah, and then this one, they had 65% of the skeleton on that.
65%?
Yeah, which is pretty high.
So what does that mean when, like, the skeleton?
So they have so here I can orient you a little bit better on this. So here is the teeth, and this right here would be the eye, and then in this area is the oh my gosh, the femur, and then the tibia. Wow. Yeah, so it's got like the leg areas there, and then yeah, so it does not look pretty coming out of the rock.
It doesn't come out all pretty. So you have to scan it, and that's where you'll go into the software and actually build the model. And then you say it takes about 10 hours. Is that software expensive?
Oh, well, okay, on the scale of things, not really, but ZBrush cost, I think, $800.
Okay.
But other 3D modeling softwares, you'll, like, cost you a lot of money. The CT scanning, processing, I think is like, I want to say 10,000 for just the software, and ours is like from 2012, so it's super outdated.
So because you said you got kind of like thrown into like this whole 3D modeling world, when you did that, like, did they train you on this, or do you kind of, it's like a play-in, kind of like, like Premiere or something, you kind of just like have to learn how to edit, or what?
So we, at the lab, we're all pretty buddy with each other, and it's kind of, it's like, we all kind of are friends with each other and give each other a lot of shit.
Good.
So
and a good job.
Yeah. So they were like, figure it out, and I got help from Jesse Pruitt, who's my manager, and yeah, he was like, you're gonna figure it out. So we ended up doing that, and this took me probably like 9 months to get the whole model done.
Wow. 9 months for. Yo.
Yeah, and then so there's the skull, and then I did the rest of the skeleton too. So that's what this guy is. Oh my gosh, sorry.
You're good. Ooh, that is interesting. Wow. Did you 3D print the whole thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's on display too, and I have a picture of that as well.
So where do you got it on display at?
That is the museum in Thermopolis, Wyoming, the Wyoming Dinosaur Center.
Wow.
Yep, let me find the picture. Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
Maybe I don't have it. Oh wait, there it is. So this is what the exhibit looks like.
Oh, nice. So when you 3D print, are you the one to like, so some of the 3D prints, are they the people that do the research and come up with these signs, logos, names, descriptions too, or?
Okay, so it's kind of a very collaborative process. So there's Dean Lomax, Bill Wall, and then another lady that I cannot remember her name. I'm very sorry. That did the research paper on it. So they've been working on that since 2001, writing all of the descriptions and everything of all of the bone. Then they had to have some prep team take all of the make sure that the rock looks as good as possible. So right there is actually that's how big the whole skeleton is. That's actually a fossil. So
wow.
Yeah. It took quite a process of all of that. So we got to go in July. They did the opening, so we got to go to their like press release thing, and they talked about the whole process. And it's a lot that goes into each thing.